Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into something less comfortable, the calloused hands of history. Picture this. You're standing in a moonlit Anatolian village where wool becomes wonder. And before you ask, yes, this is where your IKEA rug's great-great-grandma was born. Don't get too cozy, though, without my guidance. You'd probably trip over a loom and wake the whole mountain. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where's my time zone travelers at tonight? Drop your city and local time. I dare you to make Ohio sound exotic. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Moonlight slicks the village rooftops like spilled goat milk. Your breath hangs silver in the air, too cold for crickets, too early for roosters. There's the loom, its wooden bones hunched in the corner, hungry even in sleep. You run a thumb over warp threads strung tighter than palace lute strings. They hum a note you feel in your molars, ancestral tinnitus. Historians still argue whether these vertical looms first rose in Çatalhöyük or Mesopotamia, but your fingers don't care. They're already carding raw wool, the lanolin cold and sticky as chewed gum. Fun fact, Bronze Age weavers sometimes used sheep urine to set dyes. Yeah, next time you compliment a rug, maybe don't sniff too deep. The first knot ties itself, or so it feels. Your left pinky hooks the thread, right hand looping the weft through like threading a reluctant needle. 2 movements, practiced since before Troy fell. The shuttle clacks, wood on wood, echoing the village's lone night watchman knocking his pipe clean. Someone's baby cries 3 houses over. The sound braids itself into the pattern. Dawns a rumor behind the hills. Your oil lamp gutters, wick floating in the last slick of fat. Here's a party trick. Anatolian rugs often encoded maps to secret water sources, those crimson zigzags. Not decorative, they charted escape routes during Mongol raids. The wool prickles your palms now, still crusted with thistle from some sheep's last snack. Your thumbnail splits a thread. Cursing feels wrong here. The silence is too complete, too old. You spit on the brake instead, saliva fusing fibers like Neolithic superglue. 3 generations back, your great-grandmother wove hatred into rugs, tiny imperfections meant to curse invading soldiers. No one teaches that technique anymore. The wool drinks your apology. Stars fade first. Then the night birds. When the roosters finally scream, your section of pattern blooms 6 inches of knotted time. The loom creaks its disapproval as you rise. Outside, a dog trots past carrying someone's missing sandal in its jaws. You press palms to the unfinished edge, leaving sweat and skin cells in the knots. Tomorrow's problem, morning smears, honey light across the floorboards. Somewhere down the valley, a forgotten Ottoman outpost crumbles, its own carpets long since eaten by beetles. Your work today will outlive you too. The thought sits heavier than the wool in your lap. You blow out the dead lamp. Its smoke curls upward, a ghostly twin of the threads beneath your blistered fingers. You kneel by the stone basin, fingers sinking into greasy fleece, still warm from the sheep's back. Dawn spiders silver the barn rafters as you work, water sloshing over coiled wool. Each dunk feels like catching cloud banks, the lanolin resisting, until river grit scrubs it loose. Rumor says Byzantine monks first perfected this scouring method, but you learned it from a woman born before the Ottoman railways. Your palms sting from the cold stream pouring through clay pipes, centuries-old engineering that outlasted emperors. East of here, past the salt flats, tourists gawk at Roman aqueducts. You've got one hidden under goat willow roots, still funneling mountain melt to your trough. Historians still argue whether these irrigation grids spread through conquest or potluck weddings. Ask the water. It murmurs the same 7-note song either way. The washed wool fluffs into drifts, 100 snowy islands spread across cedar drying racks. Watch how the breeze teases strands, ghostly fingers braiding invisible thread. Grandma swore if you carded fleece under a waning moon, the wool would repel moths. Science calls it superstition, but your cedar chests stay untouched while village silos crumble. Spindles twirl between calloused fingers, drop by drop birthing yarn from chaos. The rhythm's older than coins or alphabets, thumb flicking limestone whorls in patient circles. Some claim Neolithic spinners added human hair to their yarns for luck, a DNA cocktail woven into Çatalhöyük's walls. You tried it once, sneaking a strand into your nephew's blanket. Still, can't decide if his fearlessness comes from ram's wool or auntie's follicles. Midday sun bakes the courtyard tiles, the scent of wet sheep rising like yeasty bread. Flies investigate your basket, their buzz harmonizing with spindle hum. 3 rotations clockwise, 2 counter, the twist holding better than any factory machine. This spindle's older than your grandfather's favorite heresies. Its wood polished smooth by generations of thumbs. They say Catherine, the great commissioned Anatolian rugs, spun on humble sticks like this. You'd trade 10 imperial medals for 5 minutes. Shade right now. Dip fingers into the roving, fibers catching on hangnails and story calluses. Each tug drafts the cloud mass thinner, lungs synchronizing with spindle's pirouette. Halfway through your pile, you spot the twins' sneaking skeins to build a yarn castle. Their giggles falter when the structure collapses, fate of all empires built on borrowed thread. Twilight arrives with armfuls of undyed yarn, pale as the underbelly of owls. By the hearth, you pluck a loose strand and snap it taut. Listen, that sharp pop means decent twist tension. Some dyers swear by spider silk soft yarns, others demand cables that could hoist oxen. Your hands crave the in-between, threads that bend but refuse to break. Tomorrow's dye vats will judge your choices, hungry pots where color cradles or condemns. Moonrise finds you counting skeins, 3 for madder red, 5 awaiting indigo's midnight kiss. Blisters throb in time with cricket chirps, your knuckles mapping tonight's work onto tomorrow's bones. Blow out the oil lamp, wick hissing like a disappointed shepherd. Sleep comes rough and lanolin scented, the unspun fleece already dreaming in tomorrow's patterns. You wake to a reek, worse than fermented goat cheese, madder roots stewing in the iron vat. Dawn's barely a rumor as you stoke flames beneath copper pots, their bellies full of crushed leaves and beetle shells. Phoenician traders once bankrupted kings for Tyrian purple. You've got Armenian red from bugs that stain better than a toddler with pomegranate juice. Toss another juniper branch into the fire. Smoke curls like blue-gray yarn, unraveling. The first skein kisses the ochre bath, wool drinking iron-rich broth until it blushes sunset orange. Don't breathe deep. That's not earthy musk. It's 3-day-old sheep, urine mordant, doing its alchemy. Some dyers swear pee gives richer hues. Your nostrils swear revenge. Indigo's the diva here, demanding a slimy vat of decaying honey and lime. Dip too fast, and the wool emerges jaundiced too slow, and it drinks the vat to cobalt marrow. Watch close, this blue's a shapeshifter. What leaves the pot, looking sickly green, will deepen to midnight as air claws its secrets out. Catherine de Medici supposedly banned the dye too peasant chic for her Versailles soirees. Joke's on her. Your vat outlasted her bloodline. Ancient Persians believed dye masters communed with jinn, their vats guarded by fire spirits. You've just got a lazy barn cat batting at rising steam. Still, when the indigo finally blooms proper, you'll admit it feels like magic. Or maybe oxygen deprivation from the stench. Pinch a thread from the welled yellow bath. It glows brighter than a nicotine-stained smile. Grandma claimed this shade warded off the evil eye better than garlic necklaces. Scientists found trace uranium in Balkan weld. Deposits last decade. Maybe radiation's the real guardian. Don't tell the tourists. Midday turns the dye yard into a witch's. Brunch pots belching vermilion steam, while wasters drunk on fermented gallnuts stagger between vats. A merchant's daughter once offered you synthetic dyes, tiny glass vials clinking like promises. You sent her home clutching a skein dyed with bedbugs. Art can't be microwaved. The real trick comes at sundown, dipping walnut-done yarn into iron afterbaths. Watch brown mutter into black, a alchemical grudge match where oxygen always loses. Historians still argue whether Sahara caravans carried indigo as salt or slave-stained rags. Your blistered fingers vote for both. Moonrise finds your forearms tattooed in accidental rainbows, cuticles crusted with dyes that'll outlive your bones. Hang the skeins like captured auroras. They'll drip sapphire and burnt sienna onto thirsty dirt. That indigo vat, cap it tight, legends say, an open pot lures night hags to piss in it. Or maybe that's just your neighbor's drunk uncle. Either way, sleep comes easier with the lid on. The loom's heartbeat starts before your eyes open, knuckles grinding into wool's resistance like mortar against pestle. Dawn licks frost from the workshop's dirt floor as you untangle warp threads, each vertical string thrumming like a plucked bass note. Armenians wove prayer knots into rugs for 1,200 years. Your calluses build incrementally, an eighth of a millimeter per decade. Grandma's hands had topographical maps of this labor, ravines where threads sawed flesh into canyons. Your pinky jerks sideways, a subconscious spasm trained by decades of shuttle passes. The rhythm's older than Assyrian tax records, left, right, a metronome set when humans first twisted grass into baskets. Neolithic combs found near Göbekli Tepe prove weaving predated pottery, a fact that comforts you when tourists call rugs quaint folk art. Lanolin slick wool slides between fingers, the shorn grease mingling with your skin's salt. Touch the warp threads wrong, and they'll snap, vengeful harp strings singing betrayal. Your neighbor swears she wove her husband's infidelity into a rug's border. Those jagged crimson triangles sure tell a story. Midday sun bakes the workshop into a clay oven. Sweat drips onto the weft, hardening it into temporary beads. The shuttle's birchwood spine fits your palms, groove polished smoother than a saint's relic. 10,000 passes, 100,000. Counting invites madness better to measure progress in blisters bloomed and burst. A knot slips your thumbnail rams sideways, tearing cuticle from quick. Blood swells bright as pomegranate molasses, blot it quickly or stain the wool. Folk remedies say menstrual blood strengthens dyes. Seems the same logic applies to curses muttered over knuckle wounds. Children's laughter skitters through the window. They're playing hopscotch over stretched warp threads in the yard. You'll yell once the pattern's secured. Till then, let their souls flirt with disaster. Anthropologists found 13th century rugs with child-sized footprints woven into corners. Proof apprenticeship started when knees still scraped the earth. The shed stick rises, a temporary sky opening between warp layers. Slide the shuttle through this gate before the threads snap shut. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. The margin for error shrinks with age. Some claim Ottoman weavers could pass shuttles blindfolded. Try it after 3 glasses of Reiki, and you'll weave a drunkard's pilgrimage. Dusk brings the half-lie of relief, muscles unclenching as the loom's skeleton groans into stillness. Rub raw fingertips across wool's nap. It retaliates by snagging loose skin. There's a reason graveyards near weaving villages have fewer arthritic ghosts. They're all reincarnated as sheep, nibbling vindictively on dyer's woad. Historians still argue whether Anatolian rug patterns were proto-writing or mere decoration. You lean toward prophecy. Those zigzags clearly predicted your sister's divorce. Moonlight silver plates the unfinished rug, geometric dogs howling at woven stars. Your hands, now resting, twitch in sympathy with sleeping muscles. Grandma's voice ghosts through the room wool remembers. A forensic study once matched rug textures to weavers' fingerprints. Turns out the ridges trap wool fibers and ancient diatoms. Your prince, currently hosting a sheep's breakfast from 600 AD, thread by thread, the rug becomes a census, each knot a breath, each color a season. Air moves differently through textile valleys, warmer where reds cluster, cooler in indigo shadow. You'll dye with lanolin in your creases, and maybe, if the loom permits, a finished edge. Your thumbnail traces a caramel-colored zigzag, each abrupt turn, mirroring the goat's cliffside escape routes. Ottoman tax registers from 1584 list 43 rug motifs as taxable property. Irony being the patterns outlived the empire's accountants. Finger-combed wool still holds fingerprints, yours overlapping with a long-dead great aunt's whorls. That diamond cluster supposedly maps vanished salt lakes, cross-hatched grids where camels once sank knee-deep. Archaeologists found matching symbols on Hittite drinking vessels, though some teensy designs might just be ancient wine stains. You add extra knots anyway. Let future scholars argue over your grocery lists. A burnt orange triangle winks up. Scholars swear it's an abstracted mountain. Your cousin insists it's a fertility symbol. Proof: her daughter was born 9 moons after she wove 17 of them. Historians still argue whether nomadic weavers encoded migration routes or just copied what looked nice. You split the difference. Today's pattern includes the path to Ahmed's fig stall. Midday heat warps the wool's tension. Threads tighten like guitar strings tuned by demons. Adjust the heddle before the pattern kinks. Slower now. Joints creaking in tribal disapproval. That saffron rectangle isn't sitting right. Reweave it 3 times before the angles snap into alignment. Perfectionisms, the real ancestral pattern here etched into DNA, alongside stubbornness and lactose intolerance. Rust-colored chevrons bloom, each V a snapshot of caravan birds fleeing sandstorms. Your kindergarten teacher claimed these meant water nearby. She also thought rain dances worked, so grain of salt. A 1920s eccentric published a book deciphering rug motifs as alien crop circles. His sample translations suspiciously resembled limericks about his ex-wife. 3 navy knots cluster like conspirators, a widow's code for years spent waiting. Your own stitches lean pragmatic. A crooked square means dropped the shuttle again. Dairy foam dries on the loom's edge. Breakfasts escaped, say leaving caramelized sugars in the fibers. Future carbon dating will peg this rug to the exact Tuesday you skipped dishes. Palm down, you skim the textile landscape, ridges, record every argument with the dye vat. Every split thumbnail's betrayal. That odd gap near the selvage, not a mistake, a pocket for gin to store their secrets. Grandma swore blind spirits negotiate patterns after midnight. Hence, why she locked her loom with iron keys. Dusk softens the errors, shadows pooling in imperfect tension like mercy. You replicate a spiral from a Seljuk saddle blanket, symbol of eternity, or sheep entrails, depending who's drunk. A moth flits past, veering sharply from wool's lanolin reek. Smart bug your ancestors wove tobacco into threads as pest repellent, and possibly to confuse historians. The last knot sucks blood from your cracked cuticle, a final sacrifice to the pattern gods. Sandstorm motifs blur under your sweat, geography rewritten with every droplet. Archaeologists will someday call this evidence of ritual. Nope. Just August in Anatolia. Threads hum as you step back. The completed section pulses like a slowed heartbeat. Somewhere in these zigzags, your great-grandmother's sigh mingles with tomorrow's argument about whose turn it is to fetch water. Wool remembers, even the grudges. Dawn cracks its knuckles over the eastern ridges. Frosted sheep shuffle awake like grumpy constellations. Their fleece glitters with trapped starlight. Each tuft a frozen breath from last night's darkness. You step into boots still stiff with yesterday's mud. The flock's ascent already painting zigzags up the hill. Bells clank in discordant hymns, tinny alto for lambs, basso gongs around rams, thickened necks. Transhumance patterns haven't changed since Hittite herders mapped these slopes. Their sheep probably complained just as loud. Breathe in charcoal, and fermented grass sharpens the air. Somewhere between wood smoke and thawing dung, you catch the ghost of last summer's apricots. Frost crunches underfoot, 1,000 tiny mirrors shattering. The lead ram glares back, wool crusted with ice armor. His bell swings like a metronome, set too slow, each toll stretching the morning thinner. Historians still debate whether specific chime sequences guided flocks or just annoyed wolves. You side with the wolves. Your elbow brushes a pine branch, frozen dew cracks like sugar glass. Shepherds once used these needles to brew sore throat remedies and possibly hallucinogenic teas, judging by third cousin Mamet's spirit walk incident. Palm a fistful of wool snagged on bark. Lanolin sticks to your skin like ancestral glue. The village emerges below stone roofs steaming as dawn licks their tiles. Thatched chimneys exhale breakfast fires. Your stomach growls at the scent of surek, dough meeting flame. Funny how hunger translates wool counts into breadloaf calculations. 40 sheep uphill, 24 coils of yarn, 3 months. Work equals exactly 9 sesame-encrusted breakfasts. A ewe pauses mid-chew, icicles dangle from her muzzle like misplaced tusks. Her lamb headbutts a frost-veined rock, instantly regretting it. You snort a mistake, since frigid air stabs your sinuses. Pain blooms bright as the red mittens your sister knitted, which unraveled mid-snowstorm last winter. Some threads refuse to hold. The herd surges past, a woolen river diverting around your knees. Their sweat-warmed musk mingles with pine resin and cologne you'd call regretful shepherd. Fingertips graze frozen fleece. It burns and numbs simultaneously, like listening to in-laws argue. Sunlight finally spills over the ridge. Frost retreats into glittering puddles. The ram's bell swings faster now, or maybe time just remembers how to flow. That striped ewe with the crooked horn, her ancestors wool-lined Suleiman, the magnificence, saddle blankets, mainstream fact, per the Topkapi Palace gift shop signage. You pivot downhill, boots skidding on sheep-polished stones. A bark slices the air. Uncle Osman's three-legged dog herding strays. His gait matches the loom's shuttle rhythm, lopsided but effective. The dog's breath puffs in tempo, another metronome for this wool-scented symphony. Wind flips your collar. A shiver scribbles itself down your spine. Someone's burning olive wood. The smoke curls into cursive letters only frost giants could read. You pocket a stray tuft of wool, frozen fibers destined for tomorrow's spindle. Breakfast waits, but the horizon tugs your gaze eastward. Stone walls swallow the flock bells muffled now, like coins in a buried jar. Those smudges of indigo and madder root on your thumbnail. Same shades 19th century diplomats smuggled into Paris, hidden inside diplomatic pouches lined with, wait for it, emergency mutton jerky. Ice water trickles into the valley. First blood in the day's guerrilla war against dust. A distant shout ricochets between boulders. Ahmed accusing his donkey of plotting again. You exhale a laugh, it hangs visible, then dissolves into the loom's waiting embrace. Fingertips brush the gate's iron latch, frostbite versus rust, a draw. Somewhere above, hawk shadows stencil the rocks, predator-shaped holes punched through sunlight. You smell yeast and regret. Cousin Island burnt the bread again. The rug's edge peeks from the doorway, its newest threads still tense from yesterday's struggles. Those knots hold this morning's frost, whether future scholars recognize it or not. The warp strings hum a B-flat drone. Vibrations travel up your elbows like angry bees. You swear the loom tightens its own knots when your back's turned. Passive-aggressive textile sorcery. Somewhere beyond the courtyard, the well's pulley creaks a perfect fourth above. Rusty iron harmonizing with goat gut. Voices seep through shutters. Haddis's grandmother recounting the time wolves besieged the village. Her vowels stretch like overworked yarn. Consonants snap against fractured thirds. Historians still argue whether Anatolian loom songs influenced Byzantine liturgical chants. You're too busy untangling a snarl to care. Your comb skids across damp threads. It coughs up hair and sheep saliva. That sticky residue, pure lanolin nature's WD-40. Ottoman rug merchants once rubbed it on squeaky cart axles. True story. Though Mehmet, the caravansary liar, probably started it. A shuttle clatters sideways. You lunge like it's a toddler escaping bath time. Folded inside its walnut groove, a brittle maple leaf from last autumn. Press it flat again. Future conservators will call this organic inclusions, not your laziness. The wind shifts, charred bread, and fermented cabbage punch through wool fumes. Someone's burning juniper branches. Grandfather's arthritis cure smells suspiciously like gin distillation gone wrong. You hum a drinking song anyway, 14 verses, about a dyer who married a mule. Blistered thumbs find rhythm, over, under, beat, repeat. Your knees crack counterpoint. That patch of saffron threads. Same turmeric shade crusaders stole for kingly robes, then abandoned when they realized it stained armor. Mice scritch behind the walls their claws, tap eighth notes between your weft rows. Auntie Selma claims they're reincarnated weavers fixing mistakes from past lives. Considering last night's moth incident, you hope they're unionized. A loose thread snakes upward. It waves like one of those floppy tube men at car washes. Your shears bite its rebellion short, 7 generations back. Someone wove their hatred of Mondays into this pattern. Dust motes swirl in a sunbeam, temporary constellations, mapping last week's sneezes. The cat yawns nearby, tail flicking in 4/4 time. You absently calculate how many shed hairs just wove themselves into textural variation. Dinner bells clang 3 villages over, judging by the tinny echo. Steam rises from your tea, the liquid's as thick as Sultan Murad IV's confiscated coffee sludge. Ottoman edicts banned public caffeine consumption, but smugglers hid beans in prayer rug shipments. Your pinky grazes fresh dye, indigo lingers under the nail like a bad decision. That cobalt jar by the door, its label's a shipping manifest from Izmir scribbled over with Mehmet's improvements about sea monsters guarding pigment traders. The moon drags itself above poplars. Its light lacquers the half-woven rug silver. Warp strings cast zebra stripes on the wall. A prison for your shadow. Someone's goat brays off-key. Nature's punchline to your artsy moment. Lungs fill with humid wool air. It's like inhaling a grandmother's closet. Your spine remembers every hour here. Vertebrae stack like misaligned spindle whorls. Archaeologists found 7th century loom weights stamped with curses. Maybe your ancestors invented workplace gripe journals. Footsteps approach, they pause at the threshold. You know it's mother by the cadence. 2 quick steps, hesitation, 3 determined strides. Her shadow drapes across the rug, a storm cloud over half-finished poppies. She doesn't speak, just slides a fig pastry onto the windowsill. Its honey glaze winks under moth's wings. The loom creaks louder now, a jealous god demanding attention. Outside, boys kick a goatskin ball, thuds sync with your heartbeat. Their shouts blur into wordless harmonies. The village's perpetual soundtrack. You wonder if future scholars will mistake this clamor for sacred chants, or just teenagers being loud. Midnight oils its hinges. The last shuttle-clack echoes into owl territory. A knotted pattern winks up. Its spirals whisper about tomorrow's work. You suck dye, stains from your thumb tastes like earth and impatience. The well rope groans. Someone's drawing tomorrow's mistakes already. Your knees protest as you stand at the rug drinks moonlight through fresh warp threads. In the doorway, Mother's pastry glows, edible comma in this never-ending sentence. The fig's sweetness clings to your molars, sharp vinegar cuts through as you uncork the madder vat. Its stench punches like a drunk uncle, fermented roots, and iron leaking secrets. 3 summers back, you helped bury that scarred copper pot, its belly full of crushed beetles and shame. Ottomans called this red canly kumesh, blood cloth, for sultans who forgot their veins ran pale. Your wooden paddle swirls the slurry. Centuries of dyers argued whether clockwise invites demons. A bubble bursts, spewing scarlet droplets that hiss on hot stones. Someone's ancestor probably wrote poetry about this stink. Rhymes lost to lie burns and bad lungs. Dusty skeins plunge into the muck. They writhe like live eels for a heartbeat. Hold them under with blistered thumbs. 5 Mississippis stolen from childhood well games. Historians still argue whether Anatolia's crimson dyes inspired Venetian velvet monopolies. Your forearms just ache from stirring. Smoke stings your nostrils. Dung fires keep the vat bubbling through wolf hour. That charred scrap under the embers. A love note from Hassan the wool carder. His metaphors curdled faster than sheep milk. Dawn licks the dye yard. Frost etches lace patterns over dried puddles. Each cracked earth tile wears a bloodstained halo, nature's own mihrab pointing west. You kneel beside the pot. Its surface mirrors your sleep-smeared face. The red clings to yarn like a jealous lover. No amount of rinsing breaks its grip. Ottoman dyers used camel urine as mordant, a fact you're grateful didn't survive modernization. Rumor says a Safavid prince bathed in madder broth, emerged pink as a suckling pig for weeks. Twist the dripping threads. Your palms blush like you've throttled a sunset. Hang them over juniper branches, scarlet ribbons flirting with the breeze. Aunt Fatma claims madder vats swallow ghosts. Their whispers sour the dye. You half believe her when shadows snag the linen. A splinter gnaws your heel. You bite back curses learned from hungover shepherds. The cat circles the vat tail, twitching at liquids thicker than its own blood. One paw dips, retracts stabbed pickle fast. Clay jars line the wall, each labeled in grandfather's shaky script. His sky's hem blue looks suspiciously like moldy cheese today. Reach for the roasted oak gall supply. Fingers brush something fuzzy. Mouse bones, clean as ivory chess pieces. You toss them into the fire, a pyre for textile saboteurs. Flames spit amber sparks for a moment. The air smells of Byzantine feasts. Drop another skein into the vat. It sinks with the dignity of a drowned queen. Lunch arrives on a chipped plate, lentil mush, with extra cumin to mask well water. The first bite tastes like wet wool, or maybe loneliness reheated. Ottomans traded these dyes for Venetian glass beads, fragile circles swallowing centuries of labor. Bleach your nails on rock salt. It grinds away the red's fingerprints. Your cuticles weep pink tears. That half-born bruise on your wrist, twin to to the dyers not grandmother taught you, a hitch that outlived her by decades. A hornet drones past, its shadow flits across the drying yarn. You flick goat hair at it. The insect veers like a silk trader evading taxes. By noon, the threads blush duskier, liquid rust becoming solid fire. Count the skeins, 23 for the wedding rug, 6 to bribe the tax collector. Wrap the darkest ones in oilcloth, their pigment could stain a sinner's ledger. Toss spoiled yarn to children, they'll tie them in their hair and pretend to be flame spirits. Wash your face in the runoff, the water paints the basin apocalyptic pink. For 3 heartbeats, your Persephone rising from pomegranate filth. Then the donkey brays, shattering the metaphor. Ottoman poets compared this dye to martyrs. Blood, your well water now, resembles a butcher's floor. The vat cools, its surface wrinkles like an old woman shrugging. Skim the scum with a fig leaf. Let the village idiot eat it and claim visions. Weigh the remaining matter root, enough left to dye a shroud or bankrupt a rival. A scrap of yarn catches daylight. Its red hums a note deeper than pomegranate flesh. This hue won't fade, not truly, in 200 years. It'll blush rose like your mother's cheeks before she coughs. Roll the dry skeins into fat jewels. Their weight warms your lap. Somewhere, a merchant's counting coins minted from your calluses. Foreign fingers missing the lanolin stench. Sunset bleeds across the yard. The dye vat's reflection eats the light. Tomorrow, you'll haul water from the bitter spring, stir ashes into a fresh hell broth. Tonight, lick red from your teeth, sleep with lips stained like a bride who's bitten through her veil. Dawn cracks its knuckles over the loom, your stained feet crusted with last night's matter. Between warp threads stretched tighter than a tax collector's smile, bare soles patter like rain on mud bricks. Little Ali launches first, toes gripping linen cords as he hopscotches through the half-woven rug. His sister curses when he wobbles. 20 summers weaving taught you kids are cheaper than shuttles. Ottoman census records list children as small-fingered assets in rug workshops, though none mention the grapevines they're named after. A girl's braid brushes the vertical threads. She freezes mid-step. Laughter dies as the pattern trembles. One misplaced knot unravels a week's wages. Historians still argue whether Anatolian child weavers played ritual games or just imitated their betters. Right now, you'd trade both theories for 5 minutes of silence. The cat joins the chaos. Its tail slaps a skein of saffron yarn into the dirt. A boy dives after it, rolls clear of the loom's teeth like a seasoned acrobat. Rumor says 14th century weavers taught orphans to juggle spindle whorls, supposedly improved their hand-eye coordination. You suspected was just cheap entertainment. Your niece misjudges a jump her heel, grazes an unfinished Kaleem pattern. The threads recoil, snagging her ankle in a woolen bear trap. She dangles upside down, giggling, while her mother swears in 3 dialects. Someone's ancestor definitely invented this game to air out rugs without untying them. A toddler waddles through the warp beams, his diaper leaving blue smudges from yesterday's indigo vat. Older kids haul him back, their hands blooming with temporary henna tattoos from spilled dye pots. Byzantine mothers rubbed loom soot on teething gums, a practice your cousins still swear by during colicky nights. Threads hum under tension. The loom's skeleton creaks like an old gondola. A boy leaps for the top beam, misses by a thumb's width. Your heart migrates to your throat. He catches himself with a toe-hold Moses would envy. Lunch arrives, flatbreads draped over the horizontal threads like damp laundry. Kids pluck olives from the pattern's negative space, fingers dodging slippery lanolin-coated strands. One sneaks a date into his cheek, pocketing the pit for later artillery. The donkey brays outside, children scatter as your sister enters with fresh wool. Her gaze sweeps the loom, counting both finished knots and unscathed offspring. Vendors in Constantinople's Grand Bazaar once advertised rugs as untouched by child feet, a lie thicker than their pile. Shadows stretch, the game dissolves into naps under the loom's wooden ribs. A girl traces her name in the dust between warp threads. Tomorrow, she'll weave it into a selvage edge. You spit on a snagged knot, the old way to placate angry fibers. Adults reclaim the loom at dusk, their calloused feet too broad for the tightrope walk. A barefoot print glows on a half-tied knot. Grandma's voice whispers, "It'll bring 7 years, bad tension." You leave it there. Let historians centuries hence debate its purpose. Dust motes swim in the loom's last amber light. Your thumb measures a finished palm width. 1,200 knots press into your skin each bump, a moon cycle spent twisting wool. Cinnamon-glazed dusk seeps through cracks in the adobe. The hearth's embers whisper old arithmetic. Ottoman tax ledgers measured weavers' output by knot density. A bureaucratic snare hidden in textile grain. Your pinky traces the selvage, 5 generations of tension held in flaxen borders. Some claim Timur's invasion carpets bore encrypted war plans in their pile. You found nothing but goat hair and lice eggs. A knot slips its neighbor, your nail tugs it snug. Lanolin oils your cuticles, the greasy sheen of 10,000 thread crossings. Historians still argue whether dense knots displayed pride or just tax evasion. Your blistered fingertips vote for survival. Threads hum subsurface hymns. Vibrations travel through oak beams into packed earth floors. Tonight's count, 843. You subtract the 12 your nephew botched yesterday, his small hands better suited for grazing lambs. Cool air lifts arm hairs as the village mathematicize. Women who tally by touch alone begin their twilight audits. Their index fingers flutter like abacus beads, calculating the winter's firewood in warp threads. Your sister-in-law spits on a tight cluster. Saliva softens stubborn fibers. She brags her knots could survive Genghis Khan's saddle, though her tea-stained grin betrays 3 missing molars from last season's quality inspections. Moth wings brush your earlobe. You trap it mid-flight inside a hollow reed. Tomorrow's yarn will ingest its iridescent dust, weaving pestilence into permanence. A Bulgarian trader once swore moth-eaten rugs cure gout. He died limping, but wealthy. Memorized patterns throb behind closed eyelids, geometric codes, only palms decrypt. You dream in knot densities, waking to find fingers still moving through phantom threads. Moonlight bleaches the unfinished section. Your hand becomes a clawed silhouette against wool. 17th century court records mention weavers chained to looms during eclipses. Superstition claimed darkness, unspooled mastery. Your conscience naps through such metaphors. The cat drags in a mangled sparrow, its wings splayed like misplaced tension rods. You pocket 2 feathers for tomorrow's repair work. Functional ornamentation between bloodstains. First stars emerge. Their positions mirror the rug's central medallion. Your grandmother's voice drifts up from the knots. Count each twist like it's your last breath. She failed to mention whose breath, the sheep's, the weaver's, or the eventual buyer's. Thread ends cling to your skirt, burnt umber wisps trembling in the draft. You'll weave them into tomorrow's border, making impermanence the design's backbone. Midnight oil lamps gulp oxygen. Their smoke etches new wrinkles into wooden beams. Your knuckle brushes a still warm knot. Its heartbeat syncs with the youngest daughter's cradle song. Wind prowls the village it knows, which loose threads to pluck. You secure the half-finished edge with a scrap of bridal veil. Tomorrow's problem buried under today's exhaustion. The loom breathes deeper now, its rhythm slower than human lungs. Historians will someday dissect these knots under microscope lenses, missing the way they hold the exact weight of 3 skipped meals. Dawn's first rooster crow unravels the count. You start again. Snowdrifts swallow the village perimeter. Your fingernail sketches whirlwinds across undyed wool. The hearth crackles counterpoint to wind's howl, a duet composed in thermal layers. 16th century royal workshops demanded ice-cured wool for winter commissions. Frozen fibers resisting dye, just so. Your palms need raw fleece. Static sparks mimic distant lightning. Carpathian shepherds once wove snow barriers into tent walls. Their surviving ledgers describe textiles as fabricated glaciers. You wonder if dead sheep dream of avalanches. Hailstones rattle the ceiling, thousands of tiny looms clattering in unison. The wool's lanolin thickens in cold. Your fingers leave greasy fingerprints resembling cloud formations. Historians still argue whether storm pattern rugs document blizzards or dementia spirals. Your numb hands suggest both. Thread tension mirrors the weather outside. Warp strands pulled tighter than frozen rivers. You alternate between fire-warmed rocks and icy yarn, palms cycling through seasons with each pass. Ottoman tacksmen exempted blizzard-bound weavers, provided they wove storm motifs as frozen receipts. A sneeze erupts, 3 stray threads snap from the sudden jerk. Your grandmother's voice ghosts through chattering teeth. Achu knots require double twists. She never explained whether this was technique or tantric healing. Icicles dagger downward outside. Their meltwater stains the threshold cerulean. Dawn reveals the rug's progress, a white spiral devouring madder-red borders. 17th century French traders called these textile hailstorms, sold them as anti-witchcraft talismans to paranoid aristocrats. Wind hisses through a cracked loom pulley. The note matches your sleeping sister's wheeze. You rub resin into the mechanism, the scent triggering memories of summer beehives. Someone should invent candles smelling of napalm and entitlement, hued by cases. Frost etches fern patterns on the oil lamp's glass, a temporary blueprint for tomorrow's knots. The cat deposits a half-frozen mouse on your work, its whiskers coated in wool fluff. You spin the corpse into the weft tiny claws, securing a stubborn thread. Moonlight amplifies the blizzard's false dawn shadows of snowflakes dance across half-finished hexagons. Muffled shouts echo from neighboring homes. Old man Garib lecturing sheep about thermal conductivity again. Your thumbnail carves tributaries through piled yarn, imagining meltwater finding paths down mountain ravines. Snot freezes above your lip, the body's own salt barrier against cold. 3 centuries from now, scholars will X-ray this rug, debating if ice crystals influenced the knot patterns. The hearth coughs ash onto your big toe. A perfect ember lands in the wool pile. You watch blue flames chew through lanolin accidental art, better than anything in Florentine galleries. Teeth marks scar the shuttle handle. Winter gnaws everyone differently. You trade legends with the freeze. If hands keep moving, spring remains mathematically possible. Arithmetic disagrees, but arithmetic never carded fleece in a Turkish apocalypse. Dawn cracks the horizon. The storm retreats into pale-bellied clouds. Your rug now wears a blizzard's ghost, its eye centered where your frostbite burns fiercest. Lanolin cakes your cuticles, thick as beeswax, stubborn as ancestral guilt. Dawn's light glints off greasy fingerprints smeared across the half-scoured fleece, your nails digging trenches through unwashed wool's geography. Byzantine soldiers supposedly rubbed lanolin into leather armor, a trick learned from Cappadocian wool carders. You question their battle focus, with all that sheep stink clinging to their spears. The village stream bites harder than January wolves. Your knuckles bleed pink, swirls into icy water. Local lore claims unwashed fleece repels gin, though that might just be elbow grease propaganda. Scrub anyway, 3 palmfuls of coarse sand, 4 of regret. Historians still argue whether Ottoman dyers preferred lanolin-rich wool or just tolerated it for tax breaks. Your sleeves crust into waxed canvas, elbow creases trapping tufts of brown and white fluff. Blisters bloom where wool comb handles rubbed raw badges of honor in a war against entropy. That travel blogger last fall called your hands textured poetry. You called her rental car a petri dish of cultural voyeurism. Midday sun softens the lanolin, your forearms glisten like cheap salad dressing. A Kurdish trader once swore greasy wool muffled evil eye curses, then charged you extra for spiritually fortified carding combs. You hum the least charitable song you know. The tune sinks with cold waters, chatter over rocks. Children's laughter erupts upstream, their washing dyed skeins with about as much care as tornadoes. Their wool tangles around river stones, a rainbow octopus drowning in fast currents. You rescue a cobalt strand. Its indigo kiss lingers for 7 scrubs. Rumor, says Catherine, the great demanded Russian weavers keep lanolin hands, believing it prevented peasant uprisings through sheer tactile discomfort. Your palms beg to differ. They've mutinied 6 times since breakfast. The fleece pile shrinks slower than glaciers, each dunk in the stream releasing clouds of ancient pasture dust. A sneeze wrecks your rhythm. 3 locks of wool escape downstream as felted fugitives. Your mother's voice ghosts through chapped lips. Uncleansed wool teaches humility faster than any mullah. Fingers prune into strange origami wrinkles, mapping tributaries of the Çatalhöyük River. You count soap bubbles instead of sheep. Lanolin resists both with equal spite. That PhD student last summer theorized your arm hair's natural oils enhanced dye absorption. You thanked her and whispered plum sauce in her sample jar. Twilight finds your fingernails still gray crescented, lanolin's final fortress against modernity's scrubs. Blisters gleam like amniotic pearls in firelight. Your hands baptized in river muck and stubbornness. 19th century Marseille soap makers paid premiums for Anatolian lanolin, called it mountain tallow in ledgers stained with wine spills. Stars emerge as you wring the last fleece, water droplets freezing midair like shattered chandeliers. Dry skin cracks near the thumbprint. A tiny Grand Canyon weeping lanolin and blood. The village elder insists dirty hands build character. You're pretty sure he's just allergic to soap. Moonrise gilds your ruined cuticles, each hangnail a monument to friction's rude math. Scrub once more for pride's sake. The water laughs at your theatrics. Your hands won't know clean till spring thaw, maybe not even then. The widow's corner smells of burnt sage and unshed tears. Their looms eat black thread like hungry ghosts. 3 inky strands twist through honey-colored wool. A coded lament for husbands buried under foreign soil. Their shuttles fly faster than yours, as if velocity could blur the past. Ottoman court records mention mourning rugs woven by war widows, tax exemptions granted for textile elegies in the early 1700s. You doubt sultans ever touched wool that bites like this. Amina yanks her shuttle so hard the warp strings grown, her wedding ring still scores a pale band on skeletal fingers. They say she's threaded cloves and graved dirt into the weft, though that might just be the potter's jealous rumor. Her loom whispers a staccato prayer, each thwack a nail in memory's coffin. Historians still argue whether Anatolian mourning rugs purified the dead or just gave widows blisters. Your pinky brushes a black thread. It's colder than the others, as if winter lives in the dye. Someone's uncle from Kars swears indigo mixed with widow's tears repels moths. The wool disagrees. A moth nibbles Amina's hem. Drunk on lanolin and grief, twin oil lamps paint giants on the wall. Looms become mastodons, shuttles darting like bats. Your grandmother warned that night weaving summons sin, though these shadows seem more tired than mischievous. Nerton hums a lullaby for children she never had. The tune wilts at the edges. 17th century dye logs from Bursa mention widows black, requiring 9 iron-soaked skeins, 1 for each year of marriage. Amina's scissors flash, shearing a mistake with the vigor of someone beheading regrets. The severed threads spiral downward, comets extinguished in dust. You pocket one, a souvenir of sorrows that aren't yours. That Dutch ethnographer last autumn called the black threads aesthetically oppressive. You called his designer boots culturally oblivious cement blocks. Midnight oil smokes. The widows squint through haze as thick as the day their men left. Nerton's spindle wobbles, woolen yarn kinking like a hanged man's rope. A village myth claims unfinished mourning rugs trap souls in the warp. You wonder if that's why their shuttles never pause. 3 a.m. chill seeps into knuckles. The black threads feel slick now, like wet horsehair. Amina's teeth gleam in the lamplight. She's chewing mint leaves to stay awake. Crushed chlorophyll sharpens the air, a futile assault on exhaustion. The Ottoman Ministry of Posts once banned mourning rugs from being sent to Mecca, fearing pilgrims would trade piety for self-pity. Your own shuttle falters. The pattern lurches like a drunkard. Nerton slaps your wrist. Without looking, her grip echoes your third-grade teachers. The black threads serpentine through amber fields, ancient Mesopotamian patterns stolen by Seljuk invaders. Or was it the other way around? Academics get punchy about textile provenance after their third raki. Dawn licks the horizon. Amina's last knot cinches as the muezzin's first note shivers the windows. 342 new black threads today. Or is it 343? Arithmetic dissolves in the face of such meticulous sorrow. The widow's hands unclench, palms mapped in red welts that'll outlast their husbands' graves. You exit as shadows retreat, your stolen black thread coiled like a viper in your pocket. Later, you'll find it dyed your thigh a storm cloud hue, grief's stowaway tattoo. The village baker insists mourning rugs cure warts if slept under during Lent. Privately, you suspect he just wants an excuse to nap. Cocks crow as you pass the well, its bucket scraping stone in harmony with Nerton's receding footsteps. Somewhere, a widow's blisters burst, seeping into wool that'll outlive everyone who remembers their pain. Morning steam rises from dye vats like sleepy gin. Your stolen grief thread now steeps with indigo and shame. The dyer's boy stirs the pot clockwise, always clockwise, to trick the dye into settling. 800 years of Ottoman dye masters, reduced to babysitting a 16-year-old who thinks alum tastes like rock candy. Saffron threads drip gold onto indigo bundles below, rebel colors ignoring their chalk boundaries. You blink, and the bleed widens. A sunburst captured mid-yawn. 16th century guild rules demanded colors pure as a muezzin's cry, but weavers secretly prized these accidents. That crimson splotch could be a smuggler's route marker, or Yusuf's lunchtime pomegranate juice. Your thumb rubs the blurred edge, still warm from the vat's belly. The dyer swears by mashed pea ash to fix hues, though his apron says otherwise. Stains bloom across the fabric like Rorschach drunkard versions. Is that a lynx or Sultan Mehmed's grumpy chin? Historians still argue whether borderless Anatolian rugs inspired early mapmakers or just confused the hell out of them. A caravan guard once told you camels hallucinate from indigo fumes, hence their smug expressions. You inhale sharp mineral air vision, swimming with cobalt fish. Maybe the guard wasn't joking. The dyer's niece skips past, trailing saffron-dyed ribbons that stain the dirt. Her sandals kick up clay dust. It fuses with wet wool to create accidental terracotta. 400 years back, a spilled vat birthed Bergama's iconic mud orange. Or so drunk weavers claim at closing time. You stab a wooden pin where the indigo invasion should stop. It surrenders immediately. The wool drinks dye like a Bedouin stumbling on an oasis, no regard for propriety. Somewhere, a perfectionist weaver just felt his eye twitch. Noon's sun warms the sneaky puddle of madder red creeping westward. Beetles drown themselves in it, tiny kamikazes seeking martyrdom in cochineal's cousins. Your mother called these alas embroidery. Your aunt called them reason to drink before noon. A chicken pecks at runaway dye spots, its beak now tie-dyed psychedelic. The dyer's wife chases it for stew practice. Capitalism meets poultry art. 17th century French travelers wrote of Anatolian hens, colored like heathen tapestries, failed to mention they tasted of woad and regret. You unroll a misfit rug section, its drunken borders zigzagging like a mouse fleeing owls. Merchants would label it flawed, but trace the indigo's path. See how it cradles the saffron. Babies learning to hold hands tighter. 3 veiled girls giggle at the chaos, their hems already dusted with rogue pigments. One spits on a bleeding edge of saliva. Chemistry shifts, maroon to burnt umber. Remember that Byzantine nun who invented waterproof dyes using frog spit? The Vatican didn't. Your fingers find a thread where blue and gold merge neither wins. Both exist. Humidity glues strands together. A forced marriage, softening into companionship. Museum curators will later call this transitional aesthetics. You call it cotton's bad mood. Cicadas throb as the dyer naps, his snore vibrating the malachite vat. Emerald droplets jewel the dirt, Celtic patterns even Ireland wouldn't claim. That scholar from Prague took 36 photos of this random sludge last summer, left murmuring about proto-surrealist land art. Sunset arrives early here. Shadows pry loose the last defiant dyes. You salvage a thread that's neither blue nor yellow, nor particularly obedient. Fold it into your sash, a chameleon souvenir. Somewhere, a geometry textbook weeps softly into its straight edge. Lamplight reveals the day's carnage, rug panels hung like wounded soldiers, surrendering to beauty. Their flaws pulse, alive, in ways borders could never permit. You think of Amina's sheared threads spiraling into dust. Maybe imperfection is just persistence, wearing a nicer coat. The dyer's boy tries scrubbing his indigo-smeared face. It clings like a jilted bride. His mother will make him sleep in the goat pen again. Third time this week. As stars prick the vat's surface, a truth simmers. Every rug is a battlefield map. Dyes advance, retreat, broker messy truces. Tomorrow's scholars will dissect these stains, write papers on artistic intent, while missing the point entirely. You dip a finger, rewrite the frayed edge as you walk home. Moonflower petals float in the dye vat like drowned stars. Their indigo surrender, staining the water blacker. The night's first exhale. You dip the wool, still warm from its sunbath, and watch fibers drink greedily. 17th century Ottoman dyers believed copper cauldrons deepened blues. A fact proven by the turquoise film on your fingernails. Since spring, the vat exhales a metallic sigh. Frost crystals bloom across its surface, despite the evening heat. Villagers claim night-blooming, serious flowers, whisper dying secrets if harvested naked at moonrise. A rumor you've intentionally never tested. Your knuckles graze the wool's underbelly, slick with fermented gallnut broth that stings like lovers' regret. A bead of midnight drips onto your toe. It dries before reaching the ground. 3rd century Ephesian mosaics show similar blues, though art snobs never mention the sheep urine required to fix the pigment. You hum a lullaby older than the loom. The tune warps into a sneeze as moonflower pollen invades your sinuses. Stars pierce the vat's surface, their reflections fracturing into liquid constellations. The dyer's grandfather swore wool dyed under Orion's belt repelled scorpions. His tombstone still hosts a thriving nest. You plunge another skein. Water ripples erase Cassiopeia's throne like a bored child smearing paint. Something glows faintly in the depths, maybe decomposing petals, maybe your sleep deprivation. Historians still argue whether Byzantines reserved midnight bloom dyes for emperors or just saved them for hangover curtains. Your wrist flicks, wet threads arc through air. spattering the fig tree with nebulae of rogue indigo. A bat dives for your head, wings snapping like starched linen, before veering toward the stinky allure of the dye pit. Its silhouette mirrors the rug pattern upstairs, the one that drove Aunt Zainab to claim bats are just winged sheep. You untangle a snarled thread. The friction sparks static that makes your arm hair defy gravity. The neighbor's donkey brays at Sirius rising. Its cry tears through the wool's quiet absorption. 14 minutes until the color's fixed. According to the pocket watch you swallowed as a dare years ago. Laughter bubbles up, silent and absurd, as you realize moonlight's turned your shadow into a stretched-out giantess with yarn for hair. You squeeze the wool. A shiver of dye runs down your forearm like ink-stained tears. 5th grade geography lessons called this region the cradle of civilization. Never mentioned how civilization smells of wet sheep and boiled insects. A meteor streaks overhead, its green trail mirrored in the vat for one liquid second before dissolving. The dyer's daughter sleepwalks past, her nightgown hem collects fallen petals in a phantom harvest. She'll wake baffled by indigo-stained soles again. Your calf muscle cramps in protest. You've been squatting since twilight's last gasp. Rope creaks as you hoist the dripping strands. Their weight tugs shoulder sockets into a grimace. Moonflower blue pools beneath the rack, a temporary pond for ghostly tadpoles of lint. That German tourist swore he saw nymphs bathing here last July, though the Reiki bottle at his feet might have helped. Dawn's first breeze tousles your stolen masterpiece, the threads already fading from underworld black to sailor's kiss blue. You lick cracked lips, taste metal and forgotten prayers. Somewhere north, a museum's climate-controlled vault holds a perfect specimen. Its sterile silence screaming nothing of fig roots or bat wings. The village idiot stumbles into your yard, clutching a lantern that paints his face sulfur yellow. He points at your hanging threads and declares, "The sky's bleeding backwards." You nod solemnly. He's the only one who noticed. Cockcrow shreds the night as you finger comb the wool still damp with stories the dye vat swallowed. Your palms map valleys where indigo clings thicker. Future mountains in some buyer's sterile living room. The rooster next cry finds you smiling. All rugs unravel eventually, but tonight's blue will linger in the dirt long after you're gone. The shuttle freezes mid-throw, a single thread yanking your wrist like a fishhook's cruel whisper. Your left knee slams the loom's frame, the impact vibrating through pearwood older than your great-great-grandmother's first tooth. 17th century guild ledgers mention threadjacking as grounds for divorce, a fact your stinging kneecap now heartily endorses. Beneath the tensioned warp, the snagged fiber glints defiant as a saboteur's smile. You fumble for tweezers made from a spoon handle, family heirloom or prison shiv, depending on the daylight. The error glowers 8 rows back, a zigzag thrown sideways like a drunkard's signature. 16th century Ottoman tax records mention villages trading 10 rugs for one brass shuttle, a theft deterrent, presumably. Your nail splits trying to tease the rogue thread loose. Grandmothers still warn that dropped threads are Suleiman's beard hairs. Pluck one, and the Sultan's ghost haunts your knots. Moonlight filters through the window grill, casting prison bar shadows across the botched pattern. Outside, a hedgehog's sneeze echoes. The wool dust here could choke a dragon. The rogue strand resists, clings like a lover on conscription day. You spit on your fingertips. A sticky grip finally pries it free. The released tension makes the warp shed dandruff. Tiny fiber snowdrifts collecting in the wood grain. Historians still argue whether mistake patterns were intentional tribal crests in disguise or weavers' inside jokes. Unwinding feels like stepping backward through your own footprints. Each reversed knot whispers wasted hours, your thumbnail throbbing as it scrapes away ambition. The hearth's dying embers pop a protest, or maybe that's your spine realigning after 6 hours hunched. 3 rows unraveled now, the rug's edge bleeding undone. You imagine Victorian collectors clucking over this section. Primitive irregularities, they'd call it. Blind to the sweat crusting your collar, a spider descends on its silk highway, landing precisely where the mistake began. Coincidence or arachnid critique? Your pinky grazes a splinter, a century-old prick left by some dead ant's equal frustration. The loom creaks its condolence. Or maybe that's the walnut wood joints contracting in the night chill. Far off, a nightingale gargles half a song before thinking better of it. Corrected threads lie flush again. Soldiers back in formation after a tavern brawl. Your shoulder blades shriek as you resume weaving, threading the shuttle through resurrected symmetry. 3 cherries plop into the courtyard fountain. Midnight snack for the carp that knows your face. The fixed pattern looks off somehow. Straighter, yes, but blander than unbuttered bulgur. You chew a mint leaf, pilfered from the dye master's garden. Its sharpness failing to cleanse the taste of compromise. 3 a.m. dew seeps under the door, a sly accomplice warping the wool's tension anew. Your third yawn cracks a jaw already loose as a marionette's. The hearth's last coal winks out, taking half your resolve with it. Dawn's first rooster crow finds you knotted tighter than the rug's edge. But the loom stands corrected, its geometric troops marching proper and dull. As you blow out the oil lamp, its smoke tendril curls exactly like the error you erased. A ghostly reminder that perfection makes poor company. Your shadow retreats across the floor, a flattened giantess surrendering to the sun. Somewhere, a merchant's horse clops toward the village, eager to carry flattened beauty elsewhere. You sprinkle mint leaves over the repaired section, a petty altar to crooked paths. The spiders rebuilt its web in the window corner, messy, asymmetrical, dazzling. The spider's silk glints where dawn licks the loom, tiny rebellion against your night's labor. Your thumb finds the selvage's twin crimson knots, their coils tighter than a nun's woman's worsted rosary. Great-grandmother Nura wove her mark here in 1897. Same year, Sultan Abdulhamid II's census recorded 43 knotters of renown in the province. Rumor says she soaked those threads in wolf's blood, though you've licked them enough times to taste only mordant and sheep sweat. Your tongue regrets this investigation. The twin knots stare up, unblinking as owl eyes. Some claim Anatolian weavers encoded love spells in selvage marks, a notion your mother called goat-herd logic between puffs of roll-up tobacco. 3 virgin threads wait in your lap, blush pink from fermented sumac. Your pinky traces the air above them, rehearsing loops shaped like unborn laughter. Each daughter's knot requires 4 clockwise twists, same ritual as braiding a bride's hair before the henna bath. You hesitate. What if they only inherit calluses and coal smoke coughs? The first loop cinches tight. A sheep's bleat drifts through the window, as if cheering. By the 3rd twist, your knuckles remember grandmother Aish's grip guiding yours, her arthritis-swollen joints warm as fresh-baked simmet bread. Historians still argue whether selvage signatures marked artists or owners, a debate as old as tax collectors. Your new knots sit shy beside Nura's, baby teeth next to molars. Across generations, the wool's gauge changes. Great-grandmother's yarn thick as bootlaces, yours thin and neurotic from machine spinning. Yet both share the same lanolin stink, wet dog hair and candle wax. Outside, the dye master's donkey brays at a passing motorcycle. Ottoman Empire meets 21st century in one mangled hee-haw. You press your forehead to the loom's beam, letting oak grain imprint temporary wisdom. 3 daughters mean 3 dowry chests, 3 lifetimes of blistered thumbs and merchants haggling over primitive charm. A breeze sneaks through cracked mudbrick, tangling the spider's new web into avant-garde nonsense. You envy its chaos. Tradition weighs heavier than the stone loom weights, their granite bellies carved with Hittite sun symbols nobody recalls how to read. The morning call to prayer bleeds through your chalk-marked patterns, its melody flattening the rug's geometry into submission. Your youngest knot looks drunk, one loose spiral sagging like a tired eyelid. Leave it. Let future scholars write thesis papers on that lopsided loop. 10 generations from now, some girl's finger will trace these knots in a climate-controlled museum. Will she feel the ridge or your molar cracked from stress-nibbling yarn? Or mistake your DNA-laced spit stains for organic pigment techniques? Sunlight now gilds the full selvage, Nura's crimson dimming to rose, yours blaring adolescent pink. That spider's rebuilding her web, 7th attempt since moonrise. You snap a wool scrap at her creation. Sabotage begets sabotage. She retreats, then repositions, spinning counterclockwise for the first time all morning. 10,000 knots ago, this loom held different hands. 10,000 knots ahead, it'll cradle others. You rub walnut oil into the beam, its thirst unquenched by centuries of devotion. The oil shimmers, temporary beauty, like your breath on a frosty morning. 3 daughters, 3 loops, 3 chances to screw up a legacy. A hen clucks outside, either encouragement or critique. You swallow cold say grounds from yesterday's cup, bitter as unprinted retractions. When the midday sun shrivels your shadow to a trampled rug, you'll forget this moment. The knots remain lopsided receipts for time borrowed against the future. Spiders don't sign their web, they just rebuild. Maybe that's the lesson. The newborn loops itch, phantom toddlers tugging at a skirt hem. You sprinkle poppy seeds between the threads, offerings for whatever goddess oversees incomplete things. Somewhere, Nura's ghost smirks, her own first selvage mark once slumped like a drunkard's doodle. Motorcycle roar fades, the loom creaks. Your knots stop wriggling under scrutiny, growing into their skin. 3 daughters could mean 3 looms in this room someday, or 1 quiet boy who flees to fix radios in Ankara. The spider's new web glistens, its asymmetry perfected by 1,000 aborted starts. You snap off a wool strand, tuck it behind your ear like a quill. Futures unwritten. The knots are, hooves crunch gravel outside, a sound as rare as honest merchants. The dye master's donkey parks by your well, its saddlebags oozing crimson dust. You recognize that stench Spanish conquerors once wrecked continents for this payload of dried bugs. He unwraps his tin like a smuggler. Cochineal beetles click inside their mummy wrappings. From Oaxaca mountains, he lies through anise-stained teeth. You don't correct him. True Mexican cochineal hasn't reached Anatolia since the Manila galleons sank. These are Armenian cochineals, smaller, meaner, and cheaper by the kilo. The master demonstrates his alchemy, a teaspoon of beetles in boiling urine. Grandmother's recipe, he claims, though no Nana's pot ever reeked this biblical. You pretend to believe. Folk magic sells better than chemistry. Historians still argue whether Renaissance reds used more crushed bugs than human blood. Both stain about the same. He strains the brew through his headscarf. Parasites float like drowned fairies. You've seen cleaner methods, but chapped hands reach for his ladle anyway. The wool drinks greedily, transforming from sheepshade to arterial red. It's the color of sultanate banners and the British Empire's dress uniforms. Your eldest daughter gags dramatically, bless her soft city nose. The dye master winks, pulls a hand-carved comb from his sash. Persian antiquity, he announces. You bite back laughter. Its plastic teeth still show mold, seams from some Istanbul sweatshop. He stirs the vat with an enchanted cypress rod, conveniently for sale at 3 months. Wool profits. You counteroffer half a sack of barley and 2 rooster feathers. His theatrical gasp shakes loose a lizard from his turban green blasphemy against the desert palette. Watch him work, smearing indigo paste like a toddler finger painting. His blue recipe involves crushed lapis and 4 secret ingredients you've already spotted: snail slime, chicken bile, April rainwater, a dash of opium resin for drama. The wool emerges bruised and magnificent night sky trapped in fibers. He claims this batch fueled Cleopatra's sails, though her ships probably rotted before Rome's grandparents were born. Still, you pocket a snail shell he drops. Its spiral echoes your daughter's earlobes. Sunset approaches. Haggling grows serious. He demands silver. You offer goat cheese and a lifetime supply of backhanded compliments. Meet midway with copper coins and a jar of fig jam, sweetness masking mutual disappointment. As he departs, your youngest chases his donkey, bare feet, kicking up ochre clouds. They vanish behind the hill, maybe, to trade secrets with other suckers. You examine his leftover dye, already crusting like a scabbed knee. Back inside, the cochineal tin sits empty. Except, wait, one beetle clings to the rim, playing dead until the coast clears. Cup it gently. This stowaway survived oceans and liars. The girls will name it Pasha, then forget to feed it by Tuesday. Tomorrow, new reds to weave. Tonight, beetles in your dreams. Somewhere between sleep and indigo vats, you wonder, did he pocket a lock of your wool, or did you filch a strand of his beard? The donkeys know, but they've entered a conspiracy of silence. Moths flutter near the cooling dye pots, daredevils chasing carmine ghosts. You let them sip. Even pests deserve their taste of splendor. Their wings leave bronze dust on the wool, accidental embellishments for next century's rug restorers. The moon rises. Your fingers still smell of snail trails and deceit. Not all alchemy comes labeled. Not all masters deserve their titles. The loom awaits tomorrow's lies, ready to spin them into something almost true. You fan the last vapors from the dye vats, opium resin, and ammonia chasing drowsy children into shadow. They crumple beneath the loom like dropped handkerchiefs, knees tucked to chests, lids fluttering against grit. Dust motes swarm the single window slit, golden by daylight, silvered now by a wasted moon. One settles on your daughter's lash centuries ago. Ottoman poets compared such specks to orphaned stars. You resist brushing it off. Let her dream of celestial dandruff. The shuttle's click-clack softens to match their breathing. Wool tension dictates the rhythm. Lower notes for warps pulled taut, higher ticks when the weft sags. Historians still argue whether early looms inspired the first stringed instruments, but no lyre ever thrummed with this much sheep stink. Your pinky traces an unfinished border, 3 rows of knots shy of completion. Tomorrow's problem. Tonight, the reed comb hangs slack in its cradle teeth, glittering like a predator's grin. A boy mutters in his sleep, naming colors that don't exist. Dragon's milk white, grandfather's pipe smoke gray. His sister's toes curl at the poetry. You've heard spinsters claim dreams thread through unfinished textiles. Catch those visions before dawn steals them. Wax stains on the outermost thread. 8th century Byzantines used beeswax to strengthen linen sails. You press the spot, still warm from tiny palms gripping it during hide and seek. They'll deny playing here, but the evidence clings like the dregs of a bad dye bath. Lullaby hums rise without conscious effort, the same tune your great aunts sand while carding wool. Modern musicologists would dissect its Phrygian mode, track its lineage to Trojan lamentations. You're just pitching it flat to cover the goat pen's midnight serenade. Moonlight warps the rug in progress. Tribal motifs bleed into shadow puppets. That ibex shape, now a hunchbacked crone, the diamond pattern, a toothless wolf. You blink, the illusion holds. Centuries from now, some curator will spin theories about hidden meanings. Let them. A toddler's fist grips the newest tassel, her nails already stained walnut, brown from yesterday's dye disaster. You loop a scrap yarn around her wrist, improvised bracelet, or future forensic evidence. The eldest shifts her heel, knots 2 threads through sheer sleep-kicking. You'll have to undo it come sunrise, 7 rows compromised. For now, let the mistake linger. Some early Anatolian rugs intentionally wove children's errors into sacred geometry, the innocent stitch. Hoaxers call it nowadays. Breaths sync with the spindles, sway. It's been 6 minutes since the last dog bark. Even fleas nap in this suspended hour. Your thumb grazes a half-woven symbol, 8-pointed star, or 8-cornered prison. Depends whether you're the weaver or the wool. 2 moths orbit the lone candle, drawn less to flame than the lanolin in unwaxed threads. They'd feast if you let them. Your grandmother swore moths carried away gossip on their wings. Easier than admitting she'd mixed weak mordants. The village atheist claims textile patterns predict comet paths. Ridiculous. But his rug collection says otherwise. Your fingers move independent of thought, correcting a tension flaw no one else would notice. The perfect imperfection. Cool air seeps through cracks, carrying whispers from the well where unmarried girls toss pebbles. Their wishes scratch against the night, a counterpoint to the loom's metronome. You parse syllables in the dark, hopes for love, health, or just less backache from hauling water. Threads hum as temperatures drop, contracting in the lunar chill. By noon, they'll slacken again, the eternal argument between night's grip and day's persuasion. Someone's toe twitches, disrupting a dust galaxy into supernova swirls. Let the scholars debate whether nomads navigated by rug constellations. You've got a better compass. The candle drowns in its own wax, last light catching the safety pin holding your hem. It winks once, conspiratorially, before surrendering to dark. You unravel the night's stillness as fig pulp squelches under thumb, sweetness dissolving into rye's graveled crust. The village dogs got 3 mouthfuls each at dawn. Now their bellies echo yours through courtyard walls. Historians note 12th century weavers negotiated grain rations into guild contracts. Too bad Byzantine law never mentions jaw muscles aching from leather-tough bread. A neighbor's toddler swaps her walnut husk doll for your leftover crumbs. The trade feels fair until her mother throws shade and a half-rotted apple. You catch it midair, sour juice pools in your palm like counterfeit coins. Ottoman tax records list 32 types of decorative fruit. None account for hunger's alchemy turning cores into banquet courses. Threads warp tighter as the sun climbs. Wool contracts like skin across ribs. The eldest girl weaves goosegrass stems between knots. Crunching stems muffles her stomach's growls. Archaeologists found similar fibers in Çatalhöyük wall paintings. Though whether they signify famine or folklore remains as contested as your right to snack breaks. Lanolin grease clings to the last fig your teeth sink through furred skin into seeds that glitter like micro-mosaics. A feral cat watches from the loom beam, its pupils dialed into survival math. Grandmothers still swear starving Seljuk weavers wove raw mutton fat into prayer rugs. A myth you'd test if anyone shared their flock. Hunger reshapes the pattern your fingers skip every ninth knot to save strength. The defect resembles bird tracks, or maybe the shorthand scribes used for empty granary. Someone hums a harvesting song from better seasons. The melody warps around missing notes. Dust motes float through your peripheral vision. Is that oat chaff or phantom crumbs? A mouse risks daylight to seize the apple core, its tiny jaws working faster than your shuttle. Let historians debate whether famines improved weaving precision. You've memorized how hunger makes time sticky, how yesterday's ache glues itself to tomorrow's unfinished edge. The noon call to prayer rasps through parched throats. You count warp threads instead of blessings. 78, 79, 80. 80 becomes supper if you squint. That obstinate red strand madder root dye or dried pomegranate blood. The gut doesn't differentiate metaphors on an empty tank. Children lick resin off loom weights. Pine sap passes for dessert if you cough during the tasting. Your pinky traces a half-finished medallion 8 points meant to symbolize abundance. The shape now mirrors a sun-bleached sheep pelvis found in last month's pasture. Threads blur as you tighten the fell. Muscle memory overrides the head's fog. 217 knots since breakfast, or maybe 218. Counting slips when the fingernail moons turn blue from effort. Medieval poets likened persistence to chewing stones. To reach the sky, their metaphors always ignored the dental bills. Sunset arrives with a conspiracy of smells. Roasting chickpeas from a wealthier household, dung fires smoldering next door your own sweat-salted forearms. The rug has grown 2 thumb widths despite the gnawing void. Hunger, you're learning, weaves its own taut thread, a tension that outlasts the belly's clamor. Night falls without supper's interruption. Just the scrape of wood on wool, the clack drag pause of malnourished rhythm. When the oil lamp starves next, you'll mistake its death rattle for your stomach's applause. You mistake the lamp's last sputter for hunger pangs. Then claws click on packed earth. 3 village dogs materialize in the dark. Their ribcages echo the loom's skeletal frame. One presses a damp nose to your palm. The Anatolian shepherd breed guarded wool caravans for 3,000 years. Not that these strakes know their pedigree. Paws tangle warp threads as they circle course, hairs snagging on undyed yarn. You pluck a charcoal strand from the weave. It glints blue where moonlight licks through cracks. Grandmothers whispered that dog hair repelled moths, though you suspect lice prefer any protein offered. A brindle bitch claims the loom's shadow. Her breath sinks with the shuttle's drag. Historians still argue whether Renaissance-era hair rugs were textile errors or coded prayers to canine guardians. You've got empirical proof. Her shedding season overlaps with your indigo surplus. Dust rises where they scratch pollen and dirt settling into the rug's fringe. One pup sneezes. A constellation of saliva dots the selvage. Ottoman tax ledgers once listed looms by how many quadruped assistants shed on premises, a fact your foreman would weaponize if he inspected before market day. Threads pull taut as you resume weaving, their stray hairs now part of the tension equation. 3 black strands catch midrow. They'll haunt the ochre field like storm veins. That flea-bitten mutt grins up at you, tail thumping a rhythm softer than the treadle's creak. Paw prints bloom across unfinished sections, pads pressed in goat butter from this morning's theft. Let future collectors call it primitivist texture. You call it a tripping hazard. Moonlight catches a claw snag on the rug's edge. Its curve mirrors the crescent pendant your sister traded for mutton last winter. Nails click away as dawn stains the horizon, the pack dissolving like smoke from dung fires. Your fingers brush their shed offerings, coarser than sheep wool, but warmer than absence. Geneticists recently found dog DNA in 4 pre-pottery Neolithic textiles. Too bad, they'll never know which good boy donated his undercoat. The finished rug breathes under your palms, dog hair and dirt and hunger woven into its warp. Tomorrow it'll fetch 17 coins, enough barley flour to knead the hollow from your bones. For now, you trace those accidental strands, ghost signatures of collaborators who worked for ear scratches and bone scraps. Oil lamps gutter back to life across the village. Their glow catches canine eyes patrolling between huts. You break your last rye crust. Crumbs fall like imperfect knots. 3 shadows converge. 15 teeth catch morsels midair. Every rug needs its flaws, those dark threads that prove the world lived while you worked. Cedar resin stings your nostrils. The chest exhales 9 winter's storage into your face. These rugs were rolled before your daughter took her first steps. Now they'll cushion her knees in a stranger's prayer room. Your thumbnail tests a selvage, still drum tight despite the years. 7 layers cocoon the betrothal rug, goat hair insulation, protecting against silverfish and prying eyes. Ottoman brides once raced weaving their dowries, girls, as young as 9, looping threads between chores. You smuggled this wool from last year's tax shipment. Every stolen strand stiff with adrenaline, even now. Fingertips brush a crimson diamond pattern, its madder dye darkened by secret ingredients. Rumor says great Aunt Layla boiled her hair into the vat. Geneticists would have had a field day. The edge reveals your hidden signature, 3 loops precisely spaced where no groom would check. Lanolin clings to folded sections. It never truly washes out, like guilt or childhood scrapes. Half-blind Aunt Nergiz wove this border blindfolded. Her imagination, patterns now lauded as avant-garde symbolism. You remember her laughing through cataracts, calluses reading threads like braille. A moth-eaten patch winks from the center, time's hunger, respects no dowries. You stab fresh yarn through the gap. Your stitches form a tiny scab over the wound. Brides once concealed love notes in false knots, their alphabets reduced to binary, over-under, yes-no, stay-go. Dawn creeps across the chest's brass fittings. Each scratch tells of hasty closings during raids. That indigo smear. The night soldiers came for the dire sun. You'd hidden silk cocoons under this very rug. Threads remember weight, the press of forbidden fabrics. Trembling limbs, breath held. Your knuckles whiten around the dowry inventory. Goat wool, cotton, 6 skeins, 2 carpets. Historians still argue whether crimson knots symbolized fertility rites or blood covenants with local jinn. The answer's simpler. You ran out of madder root halfway through. Giggles erupt outside the storeroom. Your daughter tests henna designs on the neighbor boy. She inks a dog's paw on his palm. Tomorrow it'll stain orange as regret. 9 years of weaving can't compete with that laugh. If only dowries accepted joy instead of yardage. You fold the rug tighter. Childhood fingerprints vanish between layers. 3 black strands glint in its weave. That mangy shepherd dog shed into history years ago. Let scholars debate their significance. You know them as relics of a good nap partner. Blisters throb where threads sawed your wedding band. The callus outlasted both husband and gold. Women here measure lifespans by rug piles. Your mother's stack dissolves into moth dust. At least this chest smells of rebellion. The cedar oil mixed with forbidden rosewater during moonless nights. A beetle carcass crumbles in the corner, its shell iridescent as Ottoman coins. You sweep remnants into the weave future restorers will puzzle over its carapace glimmer. Someone's daughter might pick it free in 2123, wondering if it's symbolism or sloppy housekeeping. The lid groans shut. Its latch echoes vows you never spoke. 3 generations of wool inhale as darkness reclaims them. Bridal carpets should smell of hope. This one reeks of resin and algebra. Muffled footsteps approach your daughter's soles. Slap clay tiles in a rhythm older than dowries. She'll inherit these threads when your hands fossilize into spindle shapes. For today, you let the cedar air cling, this final stillness before her life becomes someone else's heirloom. Cedar oil lingers under your nails as you stoop. The first rug's edge digs into your collarbone like a lover's teeth. Ottoman law once accepted carpets as tax payments. You calculate this cylinder's worth in vanished cavalry units. Each roll contains 400 miles of thread, enough to reach the Black Sea twice over. Your heel skids on a loose tile. Centuries of women have worn this groove into the floor. Some weavers sewed coins into selvages for luck. You prefer the void where Aunt Serpil hid her divorce decree. The bottom rug exhales sheep musk. Its lanolin bled during the last Kurdish rebellion's humid summer. Sunlight slants through a high window. Motes swirl where wool fibers escaped to freedom. Archaeologists found 9th century dyes preserved under mosque floorboards. Your work won't outlast those, but maybe someone's midnight sneeze will fossilize. You shift the load, shoulder tendons, singing a tune any porter would recognize. That faint clinking isn't loose change. It's your mother's copper shuttle rattling in the roll's core. She claimed nesting tools brought continuity. You suspect she just hated searching drawers. The warp-faced weave grinds against your cheek, its bilingual texture. Smooth going east, prickly heading west. 3 rolled carpets form a leaning tower, your childhood fortress, against older sisters' taunts. Historians still argue whether nomadic patterns encoded migration routes or allergies to straight lines. You know the truth. Goats ate the original plans. In 73, a stray willow fluff clings to the top rug. Last spring's catkins still making trouble. Your daughter's birth rug rests beneath it, threads steeped in pomegranate rind and desperation. Midwives demanded payment up front. The dyer hadn't taken installments. You trace a water stain shaped like Anatolia. Rain leaked through the rafters during your 4th miscarriage. Darker than the rest, it smells of wet loam and iron. Nobody warns you about blood's metallic persistence. Merchants would call it patina. You call it unscrubbable truth. Footsteps approach. You freeze like a thread caught mid-weft. The village headman's voice booms about inspection quotas. His boots pause at your doorway. Breath knots in your throat. He moves on, distracted by old Mustafa's donkey braying obscenities. Your palms map the rug's ridges, knots per inch tattooed into callous memory. They trained you to dread mistakes. Now you miss the luxury of imperfection. That coffee-colored blotch near the fringe, not symbolism. Aydin knocked over the sève during his last visit. Moonlight pales the indigo borders. These blues outlasted their dyer's lungs and 3 sultans. You press your ear to the roll. Is that distant sheep bells or just tinnitus? A moth flits too close. You snap it mid-air with weaver's reflexes. The weight feels different tonight. Less wool, more vanished hours. You smuggled this batch through 2 famines and a tax collector's romance. Unroll it tomorrow, and dawn would catch in its weft like dew. But tomorrow's hands won't be yours. Downstairs, your daughter recites multiplication tables each number a seed for some foreign orchard. Her voice climbs the ladder as you descend, past ghosts on the stairwell's tight curve. Later, you'll find her asleep atop the rugs, cheek imprinted with their secret geography. Muffled French curses rise through floorboards. Those Istanbul dealers again, smelling of lemon cologne and bad faith. Their silver scales glint like looted teeth. Ottoman merchants carried feather quills to tally bids, their ink-stained treaty margins purple for centuries. You count knots instead of coins. 47 per inch out argues any exchange rate. The taller one waves a loop. Its lens warps his eye into a hungry pupil, plainer than last year's batch. He lies your indigo borders still outdrank the Aegean at dawn. His thumb rubs a medallion motif. Friction threatens to unravel his cuticle. Historians still argue whether these border motifs map trade routes or the weaver's menstrual cycles. You bury a smirk. Both theories underestimate women's talent for multitasking. His partner scribbles numbers, zeros slouching like bored sentries. The offer wouldn't cover a winter's kindling, let alone the rheumatoid knees you've invested. You hum an old thrashing song. Its rhythm drowns out their arithmetic. Some weavers wove camel saliva into selvages. Maybe the sour stench preserves, or just repels. These men deserve that treatment. They press closer, cinnamon breath fogging the warp threads. Imagine it in a Paris gallery. You imagine Parisians tripping on the fringe, their champagne flutes shattering like brittle egos. A toddler's footprint winks from one corner, your granddaughter testing dye vats as canvases. Let them frame that story under sterile glass. Your pinky hooks the rug's hidden compartment. Aunt Meryl's recipe folded inside. Caraway seeds for courage, saffron for silent defiance. The merchants miss this, too busy debating shipping costs in fractured Turkish. Their verb tenses slip like dropped spindles. You mentally correct their grammar while oiling the loom. Dust motes catch in the dealer's hair gel miniature halos for false saints. He quotes last year's auction prices, numbers that forgot the pneumonia season. Your shuttle clacks counterpoint, 3 beats for not, 2 for enough. The village priest once wove profanities into altar cloths. Maybe holiness requires balance. Their final bid hangs, a spiderweb over quicksand. You nod toward the Kaleem-covered donkey in the yard. Its load of turnips outvalues their paper. The men click their tongues, a sound teacups make before shattering. Outside, wind plays the heddle frame's strings, a dirge for hollow promises. As their merceds spat gravel, you unstitch the hidden pocket. Meryl's spidery, writing, lists 6 ways to poison suitors. Too gentle, you'll stick with refusing. Moonlight resurrects the rug's petrified violets, their pigment brewed from moth wings during a drought. Your palm spans the abrash, that color shift from hungry summers. Downstairs, your daughter mumbles prices in her sleep, francs to lyre, to heartbeats. You tuck the merchant's card between warp threads. Good kindling comes in many forms. The fire gnaws birch logs, sputtering vowels in a language older than loom wefts. You cradle the rug's wounded, edge a moth wings left crescent bites in the midnight blue border. 17th century weavers stitched dried lavender into selvages. Ottoman moth defense disguised as fragrance. Your version uses crushed walnut leaves, cheaper and twice as bitter. A hole winks where Ursa Major should be. Time's teeth never discriminate. Needle glints, quick surgeons stitching constellations back into place. Fresh yarn purples your thumb. Madder root dye still bleeding arrogance. Historians still argue whether Gerd's knots unravel faster in coastal air or a widow's house. You vote for grief, it weathers everything but tax collectors. The repair throbs like a scab, beautiful in its foreignness. Grandfather's voice smokes through memory. Never trust a rug without scars. He'd point to auction house pieces, their perfection stinking of bleach and shame. Your darning wool beaks through ancient thread, 1 part healing, 3 parts rebellion. Some Anatolian tribes wove wolf hair into repairs, said it scared off termites and ex-husbands. You settle for goat cheaper and less dramatic. Flames lick the hearth's iron belly. Their light ages the wool 70 years per minute. A cypress shadow claws up the wall. Your hands become grandmothers for 3 flickers. The mended patch feels pregnable. All new things do. In Aleppo, they rub fresh knots with pumice. Simulates centuries of bare feet. You skip that step. Let tomorrow's children earn their patina. Coffee boils, its grit promises a sunrise migraine. The rug drinks a moonbeam through torn shutters. Your sutures glow like smuggled phosphorus. 1 moth circles drunk on kerosene lamplight. 19 stitches mimic the original pattern. 20th one veers northwest. Let scholars call it error. You know it's just Tuesday. Dawn licks the horizon, fox-colored and curious. The mended stars float slightly north, guide some future nomad's crooked path. Roll the rug tight. Its heartbeat syncs with your walk to the market. Those Florentine restorers can keep their reversible techniques. Real endurance requires leaving a scar. Raccoon fat sizzles in the dye pot. Çatalhöyük's worst kept preservation secret. 17th century dyers used it to fix saffron hues. Your nose still prefers beeswax. Harvest moon hangs low, a dahlia squeezed till its juice drips over the village. Squash blossoms sag on their vines. Daytime's torchlight faded to ashen petals. Historians still argue whether Anatolian saffron dyes signaled wealth or just covered mutton stains. You drop golden threads into the vat. Watch them drink moonlight through amber liquid. Tongs clink against copper, their handles wrapped in last winter's sheepskin. Fumes rise like jealous gins. They'll haunt your hair till Thursday. That merchant from Smyrna swore. Raccoon grease brightens yellows, smells like roadkill dipped in honey. Your pinky nail tests the bruised temper. Blister confirms it's properly spiteful. Across the courtyard, grandmother's ghost frowns through the steam. She favored murex shells for luxury. Too late now, Stamboul collectors pay extra for authentic rural musk. Fingers plunge into the vat. Saffron bleeds through hangnails and old burns. Ottoman viziers once wore this shade. Their funeral shrouds outshone the living. You hum a siege tune, crooked teeth staining the melody. 3 skeins bob like beheaded sunflowers. Twist them clockwise to confuse evil eyes. Fire gnaws, apricot pits their smoke blue as a wolf's last sigh. Recipe books claim dyers went mad from lead salts. You blame the solitude. Midnight creaks the well bucket, water sloshes over your toes. Wool sighs as it swallows dye, each fiber puffing into gilded velvet. A hedgehog noses through mint patches, judging your color choices with each snuffle. 2 generations back, they'd boil dyes with iron nails. Let the rust preach endurance. You cheat with copper sulfate, stolen from the schoolhouse chemistry cabinet. Dawn arrives uninvited, its first rays catch in the steam. Fingernails gleam like gilded Ottoman calligraphy, ruinously permanent. Blister bursts. A sticky bead of gold rolls toward your wrist. Historians will call this shade sunset over Bursa. You'll know it's Tuesday's raccoon grease. Squash vines shiver their blossoms crisp into orange ash. Dip the last thread, watch yellow conquer cream. Roosters crow through linen masks, muffled alarm clocks for the sleep drunk. Your reflection wavers in the dye pot, 20 years older and twice as stubborn. Saffron's final gift, calluses that won't wash clean. Bundle the dripping yarn, its weight whispers of unspun sunlight. Somewhere in Paris, a curator's sneering at your fingernails' chemistry. Let them. Authenticity wears off after 3 wash cycles anyway. Laughter leaks from the bread, oven, cousins, betting on your caffeine intake. You raise saffron-stained palms. Temporary war paint for the breakfast wars. Tomorrow's wash water will run gold, a Midas tragedy in a clay basin. For now, let the wool drip dry like stolen temple offerings. Harvest moon flees westward, dragging its tattered cloak of stars. The first snowflake lands on your spindle, a cold star melting into wool's embrace. Others follow, silent, as moths drawn to undyed yarn. You breathe through clenched teeth each, exhale a ghost, arguing with frost. Half-spun strands stiffen under winter's kiss, tiny pearls glinting like misplaced jewelry. Memoirs of Ottoman wool washers mention snow baths for fiber, but they had fireplaces and paid lackeys. Your thumb rubs raw where saffron stained it gold yesterday, now blotchy as a smith's apron. A ewe bleats from the pen, her complaint about snow echoing yours. Historians still argue whether frozen wool held sacred meaning or just masked the stink of lanolin. Thread snaps under icy tension, the sound of a snapped wishbone. Stash the spindle in your armpit, body heat versus nature's indifference. Someone's hung lavender bundles from the loom, dried flowers tremble like aged divas. Crush a sprig, the scent jabs your nose, sharper than any dye fumes. Across the valley, a shepherd's fire smudges the horizon. His own wool charges, stomping for warmth. Your big toe pokes through a sock's mend. Snowflakes lick the hole with smug precision. Steel needles click in the corner. Ants knitting needles racing to outpace winter. She swears first snow yarn brings luck. Also claims mushrooms whisper after midnight. The hearth coughs up smoke. Pine resin perfumes the familiar betrayal. Your frozen fingers fumble a knot. 18th century pattern manuals called this the idiot's hiccup. 3 crows debate on the roof, their talons scratching critiques of your tension. 1 pecks at icicles, glass daggers dripping onto grandmother's rose bushes. Snow slips down your collar, a sly blade chasing spine's curve. You spit on the shuttle, saliva freezes before it soaks in. Catch a flake on your tongue, the village cure for crooked weaving. It tastes of nothing for 6 seconds. Then iron, then long gone autumn apples. Your lungs ache from breathing beauty and spite in equal measure. The loom creaks, its oak frame shrinking tighter than a miser's fist. A cousin stampedes through the door, snowballs melting in his scarf folds. Uncle's donkey's stuck in the creek. He pants. You nominate the donkey for sainthood. Aunt chucks a skein at his head. The wool unspools midair like a sheep's last laugh. Moonrise finds you oiling the loom's joints, walnut grease warming your palms. Frost-etched wool glows blue-white, a ghost of the day's labor. That traveling dyer from Izmir once swore full moons set dye colors. Drank too much Reiki, though. Your knuckle brushes a half-woven edge. Friction sparks against numbness. Midnight bells toll in the next village, a sound warped by icy air. Count 17 strikes, or 18. The world feels tilted. Wool, snow, and drowsy curses. Historians will call this era the Great Thaw. You call it Tuesday. Wind slaps the west window, a reminder that Anatolian winters hold grudges. The brazier spits embers onto your foot, karma for stealing its warmth. Blow on stiff thread. Watch your breath become part of the weave. Dawn comes late and grouchy, light seeping through wool-covered windows. Your spine crackles like kindling as you rise, half the rug still hostage to winter. A sparrow lands on the windowsill, tilts its head at your masterpiece. Toss it a flax seed. Watch the bird become a judge. First snow's hush lingers, a held breath between solstice and despair. Somewhere beneath the loom, your toes dream of summer's dung fires. The rug grows anyway, row by frozen row, while history naps by the coals. Your sister's scream splits the pre-dawn hush, a sound older than Ottoman minarets. Blood drips through floor cracks. Each drop hisses against the hearthstone. You count the stains. 5, 12, 23. 17th century midwives used woven horsehair mats to catch birth fluids. Yours just got upgraded to a half-finished rug. The shuttle jams mid-throw. Red yarn tangles with wool dyed in last autumn's pomegranates. Historians still argue whether Anatolian birth rugs bore protective symbols, or just hid the mess. Another cry shakes the room. Your left foot kicks the treadle hard enough to crack a walnut. Faster. Your aunt barks. She's boiling water with herbs that smell like angry bees. The birth stool creaks, its oak worn smooth by your grandmother's labor pains. Someone's hung garlic and juniper from the rafters. Village superstition claims it blinds evil spirits. Your thumbnail splits threading a needle. Crimson beads join the wool's palette. Cold air sneaks through the window. You're sweating anyway. Blood warmth seeps into the rugs. Etch a permanent stain your niece will someday trace with sleepy fingers. A traveling herbalist once told you placenta ash makes dyes shockproof. Never got to test that theory. The sister nearest the fire chants nursery rhymes, lyrics warped by missing teeth. Wind howls through the stable. A donkey's panicked. Bray drowns out the midwife's instructions. Your knee grinds against stray spindle whorls. They roll like marble tears across the floor. The hearth flares suddenly. Flame shadows make the rug's patterns writhe like birthing snakes. Dawn arrives uninvited. Gray light exposes everyone's exhaustion. Your sister pants hoarsely. Her grip warps the loom's frame. Someone thrusts time liquor into your hands. It burns like drinking a campfire. The midwife barks about head positions. You're suddenly grateful for the loom's simplicity. Sunrise stains the rug apricot, perfect for hiding bloodstains. 3 generations of women argued over this pattern's meaning. Zigzags as mountain passes, lightning bolts, contractions, thread snaps. The shuttle flies into the dung bucket with poetic accuracy. Your aunt mutters about idiots and Euripides, keeps weaving anyway. A final scream, then silence thick as curdled milk. The midwife's hands emerge, holding something purple, and squalling life's oldest magic trick. Your sister collapses against the warp threads, her sweat darkening the wool's indigo dye. Some village men claim birth rooms reek of weakness, cowards who have never tasted indigo vats or placentas. Trembling fingers tie the rug's last knot, grandmother's secret double loop for extra warmth. The baby wails when laid on fresh weave, tiny lungs protesting existence itself. Your blood-stained thumb brushes its foot, a print smaller than a chickpea. Outside, snow resumes falling. Flakes melt against the window's sheepgut parchment. The midwife wraps the afterbirth in rag scraps. Later burial beneath the healthiest olive tree. Someone hands you a towel steaming with melted snow. It reeks of lanolin and exhaustion. Your sister sleeps now, chest rising in time with the infant's hiccups. The rug lies finished beneath them. Crimson stains already drying to rusty whispers. Dawn's full light reveals every mistake in the weaving, and every moment that mattered more. Sheep bells clank in the distance. Flocks ignore human dramas for icy grass. You pick burnt thread ends from the hearth ashes, clinging to raw cuticles. The newborn's fist grabs your pinky, softer than raw silk, stronger than time. A foreign engine coughs outside, its diesel growl scarring the loom's quiet song. You glance up as strangers spill from a van, their sunburns screaming Istanbul weekend tour. One holds a laminated photo skyward. There's your niece's birth rug pinned under museum glass. The caption says 19th century Kurdish tribal piece, missing 3 syllables in its true name. They smell of insect repellent and privilege. A woman gestures at your current weaving, phone flashing rapid-fire shots. Her ring snags a thread. You fight the urge to yank her manicure out by the root. Europeans paid triple their weight in silver for such rugs during the Ottoman decay. Too bad these clowns only carry credit cards, so authentic. Who's the tallest tourist, his Turkish worse than a drunk rooster's crowing. Their guidebook claims your village hasn't changed since Marco Polo's itchy saddle days. You don't correct him. Let Westerners keep believing we shit in rose gardens. The laminated photo trembles in the breeze. Your sister's bloodstain looks black in museum lighting. Neon signage from Manhattan or Berlin must glow on that glass nightly. Historians still argue whether our patterns map stars or just drunken camels walking paths. The tourist traces the rug's edges through plastic. They said this took 2 months. Actual tally: 9 winters, 3 pregnancies, 1 stillbirth. Her phone pings. A selfie distorts your loom into Insta sludge. You imagine curators debating humidity controls for wool that survived 40 harvests of chilblains and goat spit. Their preservation labs will never replicate lanolin seeping into fingerprint whorls, or the vinegar bite of dye vats bubbling through fevers. A man crouches to document your hands, as if cracked cuticles qualify as ancient relics. His flash illuminates the 4th finger's missing tip souvenir from a poorly timed sneeze mid-knot. Let him fetishize your calluses. They'll soften in his air-conditioned slideshow, while your palms keep grafting tomorrow's calluses. The group departs clutching artisan spindles bought in bulk from Istanbul's slums. Their van kicks up dust that stings like discontinued currencies. Someone's dropped the photo. You rescue it before chickens peck your sister's legacy. Museum barcodes obscure the corner where the baby first pissed on her woolen sky. Nightfall finds you scrubbing indigo stains in the creek. Cold water bites like stolen artifacts. Cicadas hum the same pitch as gallery security alarms. Same song, different cages. Stars emerge, the same ones that watched your great-grandmother weave. Glass towers can't smother their light, though God knows they'll try. The Indigo River follows you home, its stains now permanent beneath ragged nails. Seasons turn like a spindle, without thread, empty rotations marked by creaking floorboards. Your rug outlives you by 7 generations, fading to the color of weak tea left in sun. Museum placards will call it 19th century pastoral fragment, never naming the child whose first steps wore its edge thin. Historians still argue whether our zigzags charted sheep migrations, or just made drunk weavers' errors look intentional. A conservator in Paris sniffs the wool once, wrinkling her nose at lanolin's animal musk. She'll lecture colleagues about Ottoman trade routes while steam cleaning your sister's sweat from the threads. Someone's toddler spills juice on it in a Connecticut suburb. The stain blooms like your village's long-dead mulberry tree. Centuries later, moths dine where your heartbeat once pressed the warp. Laser scans detect great-grandmother's fingerprint beneath layers of grime, patina mistaken for primitive texture. Tour groups in Tokyo orbit its display case, blue light glasses reflecting pixels instead of pasture skies. Decades blur. A university intern notices lamb's wool knotted with polyester, your great-granddaughter's repair during the plastic age. Scholars publish papers on this postmodern intertextuality. She just used what survived the bombings. The day comes when light breaks it. Ultraviolet rays snap frail threads, crimson fading to blister pink. Curators debate whether to display the tatters or hide their decay. Meanwhile, a girl in your rebuilt village knots fresh yarn over the holes. Her needle dips where your blisters once split open, 2 centuries of mending layered like geologic strata. Someone's ringtone, a pulsing electronic screech, wakes the museum guard dozing by your rug. He'll clock out at dawn, unaware his uniform lint contains wool from your cousin's last flock. Back home, dawn stains the horizon the same madder root red, same palette, different hands. Wind carries a fiber from the museum's HVAC vent. Your rug's stray hair hitchhikes on a lawyer's Armani sleeve. It falls into Central Park soil, maybe someday merging with dandelion fluff and subway grime. Nitrogen never judges. The village well still crackles with gossip about your generation, voices echoing through smartphone speakers now. A TikTok teen films her grandma knotting threads. Caption says oddly satisfying. The video gets 3 million views, but 0 answers about why saffron yellows deepen with age. Climate controls fail in Madrid during a heatwave. Your rug contracts like living flesh, startling a janitor who swears he heard it sigh. By morning, the humidity's fixed, but he quits to sell Aran by the highway. Archaeologists carbon date a fiber cluster in 2123. Your DNA surfaces in ancestry databases. Promo email. Subscribers in Denver get alerts calling them 0.3% Anatolian textile artist. None notice. When the museum floods, your rug drinks ve'adeu until the fringe resembles seaweed. Restorers panic. You'd have shrugged and hung it by the goats to dry. Some intern mops the puddle while humming a folk tune your niece once warbled off-key. Final insult. A biotech CEO buys it at auction, calls the holes crowdsourced negative space. His interior designer floats it in resin, kills the last moth larvae hibernating in its folds. But hush, the story's never done. Dawn breaks over a village that's forgotten its name. A girl with your knuckles kneels at a new loom. Her thread crosses one of yours, beneath centuries of repairs, a whisper touch across time. She sneezes, knots tighten, the pattern continues. The indigo river cradles you home, its blue whispers lingering beneath worn fingertips. Seasons unwind like an empty spindle, each turn marked by floorboards humming forgotten songs. Your rug breathes on, fading to chamomile-stained sunlight, lasting 7 generations of tea-stained hands. Museum plaques will murmur 19th century pastoral fragment, never tracing the small feet that frayed its hem. Debate flickers were our zigzags maps of wandering sheep, or just wine-blurred mistakes dressed as wisdom. A Paris conservator inhales the wool once, nostrils flaring at lanolin's weathered musk. She lectures on silk roads as steam dissolves your sister's laughter from the threads. A toddler's juice spills in Connecticut, the stain blooming like your grandmother's long-gone mulberry grove. Moths feast where your pulse once pressed the loom. Lasers find great-grandmother's thumbprint under dust, labeled charming rustic texture by curators. Tokyo tourists circle its glass tomb, screens reflected in their goggles instead of open skies. A student spots lamb's wool tangled with plastic thread your descendants repair after the wars. Scholars call it radical collage. She'd simply used what the fires spared. Sunlight claims it softly. Ultraviolet rays dissolve crimson to hushed rose, threads sighing into dust. Museums argue over hiding decay, while a girl in your reborn village weaves fresh strands through the gaps. Her needle dips where your wounds once wept, centuries of mending stacked like sedimentary bone. A phone's shrill chirp wakes the night guard. His uniform lint still holds wool from your cousin's sheep. Dawn stains the horizon madder red. Same dye, different palms. A single thread escapes the museum's vents, catching on a banker's cuff before drifting into Central Park soil. Decay doesn't discriminate. Village elders still gossip about your days, voices now buzzing through wireless earbuds. A teen films her aunt's loom, crafting asthma trends globally. 3 million views, but no one asks why turmeric yellows ripen with years. Madrid's heatwave makes the rug shiver, startling a janitor who vows it breathed. He resigns at sunrise, sells yogurt drinks to truck drivers. In 2123, your DNA surfaces in a spam email 0. 3% textile artisan buried in Denver inboxes. Rain soaks the museum. Your rug swells into riverweed. Archivists panic. You'd have draped it over a juniper bush to dry. An intern mops the mess, humming your niece's off-key lullaby. The CEO who buys it praises participatory erosion, encases its tatters in acrylic. The last moth larvae die baptized in resin. Yet listen, dawn warms a nameless village once more. A girl with your cracked kneecaps ties a new thread. It brushes one of yours, hidden under lifetimes of patches. She sneezes, the loom clicks, the weave sighs onward.